missing Dave still.
It says stop recording.
Are we ready? Okay.
Let's go ahead and keep going down. We're on agenda item number 7, Finance Committee. Gil Yanuck, Committee Chair, and Deputy Director Patrick Cates. 7A, Finance Committee Report. Committee Chair Gil Yanuck, the Commission will hear a report from the Finance Committee Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, for the record, Gil Yanuck, Chairman, Nevada Board of Wildlife Commissioners Finance Committee. On Wednesday, June 20th, 2012, about 2 p.m., the Finance Committee met, and after the approval of the March 22nd meeting, the minutes of that meeting were approved. Our meeting started with AS03 Dale Hansen providing an overview of the budget submitted by the various county advisory boards. In general, the department was very happy with the results. Of course, like everything else, 3 primary issues surfaced. 1, some cabs historically have problems garnering enough members to be effective and fully participate. And unfortunately, there is little that the Commission can do about that other than to be as supportive as possible. But every, and I emphasize every cab, needs to submit something, even if it's only a statement that says that they fully intend to try to attend the meetings and feel that the funds remaining in their account are sufficient. We need to know, are they going to be active? They're not going to be active. Do they have some money to operate? Do they need some money to operate? Tell us something. We recognize the challenges that this presents to a number of the cabs, but we ask them to do the best that they can. As I explained to the number of the cabs that attended the Commission meeting back in March, their single biggest challenge is going to be determining what's left in their account at the end of the fiscal year. Because without that number, it's difficult to come up with an accurate augmentation to what the counties need to operate for the next fiscal year. The department has no choice but to comply with the state regulations and policies regarding expenditures. And that's why if you look at the recap of the County Advisory Board budgets, you'll see a column marked adjustments. Now, in some cases, these adjustments were due to, small error in what we supplied to the counties as far as the per diem amounts that were chargeable or allowable for various hotels, because there was some sales tax added that shouldn't have been in there. It raised the numbers up, and so we had to take the numbers down. Also, the requirement for the 50-mile in order distance in order to be eligible for the per diem. And in many cases, what comes out of that is the fact that even though the state has to comply and the department has to comply with the methods outlined in the state procedures, the rules of reimbursement from the various counties may get involved in this situation also. So that when a cab submits their expense reports for attending a commission meeting, the actual amount of reimbursement may be different from what the department calculated. Now, things happen, and even with the best planning, a cab may find that their expenditures appear that they will exceed the budgetary estimates. Now, we're asking the cabs to please let the department know in advance. The department can provide additional augmentation for funds for good reasons, because we really want every cab to attend all the commission meetings. It's important to get their input from their county. And 3, a number of cabs have contacted the department, myself, regarding the number of nights and the method of transportation that may be used to attend the commission meetings. Now, the state rules demand that for budgetary purposes, the least costly method must be used. We know that depending on where the cab representative lives, taking a flight from Reno or Las Vegas is not always the most convenient method, and driving may be actually quicker. Also, if one does drive, it may require an additional night in a hotel. The Finance Committee is not here to force members to take chances driving if members are tired or weather conditions make it unsafe. So we definitely understand that there may be some exceptions that need to be made, and we understand that. Deputy Director Cates then provided the committee with the highlights of the latest iteration of the preliminary adjusted basis of the department's budget for fiscal 2014 and 2015. Next, we reviewed the priorities and performance-based budgets and realized that the department, is in what they're doing, dealing with a new type of system for coming up with the budget, is doing an excellent job. Several comments from the state back to the department have recognized the effort and the advancements that the department was able to make in the preparation of these budgets. And the last thing that we discussed was really, I would refer to as a necessary wish list. These are the items that the department really would like to see happen, and the ones that go beyond just its daily operation that are important to the department and to the public. And I want to sincerely thank Deputy Director Cates for the well-organized presentation, and for ASO3 Dale Hansen and his assistant Bruce McDaniels for the many hours they spent putting together the materials for the CARE budget presentation. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that the Commission and the public may have regarding the Finance Committee.
Okay. Any members of the Commission? Commissioner Howell?
Yeah, thank you. My question actually is probably going to have to be directed at Patrick Cates. And I had a question for him, and then a lady in the audience asked me something during the break, and I'm going to incorporate it. The Upland Game stamp money and the duck stamp money, the totals are the end of 2013 are going to be right at $1 million. Is that the same as the heritage money? It cannot be touched by the state?
Okay, hold on a second.
Finance Committee.
Pardon me?
This, are we going beyond our agenda item here?
Well, it's a finance question.
We're talking. Maybe our dad can weigh in on this. What we're talking about is basically the CAB budgets. Can we go beyond CAB budgets if we have a Finance Committee on the agenda?
Commissioner Member items tomorrow, I can ask a question.
Well, under A,
I mean,
7A.
you can bring that question in member items tomorrow, but I just don't want to get hung up on going beyond our agenda item. We're talking CAB budgets right now.
Well, the finance, it's a report of the Finance Committee, and I think I might be muted. You want the agenda, Patrick?
Basically says the commission will hear a report from the Finance Committee chairman, informational, and basically, we had two items. We had two items in our Finance Committee meeting. Those two items were the CAB budgets and the overall commission budget process. And so I think those two items are, basically fair game. But going beyond that, I think that I'd rather limit any discussion on anything extraneous to, you can bring it up in member items tomorrow and ask the question, but let's stay on track. Okay? Thanks. So did you have any other questions, Commissioner Howe?
No.
Okay. Any other questions from the Commission? I sit on the Finance Committee, and I did participate in the as a conference call, and it was a very good meeting. I made a very wise choice in assigning this to Gil, and he's done a great job, and I want to thank Gil for everything he's doing. I also want to indicate that the budgetary process that we, we're converting, we're kind of getting into the meat of this conversion process from the old system into the new budget system, and it's really coming together. I can see it's really coming together nicely, and I think we have a statutory obligation that this commission has a statutory obligation to approve, or I'm not sure what the exact language is, but to basically weigh in on the department's budget. And the level of detail and the information that I think we're going to be able to present in August, I believe we're going to do that, is going to be very good and at a level that we've never seen before. And so it's coming together. It's not quite there yet, but the preliminary report that we did get at the meeting was very good. And I think when you look at that budget when we're done, I think you're going to be very satisfied as to where the money's coming from and where it's going.
Yeah, I think the transparency and the fact that there's methods of measurement of the performance of each of the departments within the organization are there to be measured, and so that we can see exactly how well we're doing in each different activity, and it makes a lot of sense, and I think it's the right way to go.
So anyway, we will be rolling that out to the commission probably in August, because I think we need September 1 is our date.
Last day of August.
Yeah, last day of August. So anyway, so in our August meeting, we'll have a report to the commission as to the budget, get the details out. Obviously, it's already out. If you can see all of this in the on the department's website under the Finance Committee. You can see where we are preliminary, and so if you guys want to dive into it and start looking at it, feel free to. But anyway, I'm very happy to see where we're going with this. This is a lot of questions in the past about what the department did with the money, and here it is. It's just all laid out and in as much detail as anybody, even an accountant, should be just thrilled looking at this. So anyway. Thanks, Gil. That's all I have. Any other questions from the commission? Let me see, is this action?
This
is it. This one's informational. So anyway, any other questions from the commission of Gil? Okay, thanks, Gil. Appreciate it. Okay, I'll move on to 7B, fiscal year 2013 County Advisory Board budget requests. Deputy Director Patrick Cates, possible action. The commission may approve budgets for County Advisory Boards to manage wildlife for fiscal year 2013. Patrick?
Thank you. You should have in your package a spreadsheet that shows the CAB's budget requests. I handed out hard copies to you. This was updated a couple of days ago. Suzanne did distribute that, but you should be looking at the hard copy that I handed out before the break. And that had updated information. I think the preliminary report, we didn't have full information from Nye County, and we're able to receive that, so that's why an update came out. Essentially, Gil explained this item pretty well. We did go through some process of making adjustments to what the CABs asked for based on state travel rules, and those adjustments are noted in the spreadsheet. And then we went through an effort to get information from each county as to what their current balances were of county funds, and then try to anticipate what expenditures would still occur through the end of the year to try to determine what their ending balances would be for the current year, because we always deduct their current year ending balance from whatever budget they have approved for the next year, because we give all the money to the counties in one lump sum after we approve the budgets, and the counties manage those monies. If they have monies left over at the end of the year, they keep them, they roll them forward, and they use them to pay for the CAB expenditures in the next year. So based on that, the department recommended approval, the right-hand column, $50,000, $50,539 in total, as described in that right-hand column in the documents for each county, and the committee recommended approval of that amount. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any commissioners have any questions of Patrick on the CAB budgets? I'll just make the comment that we did have some discussion about cab members, and Gil mentioned this, cab members having, situations that arise that, that cause their actual expenditures to be higher than are budgeted. And so the discussion really centered around that this is a budget, and we have to have methodologies to do budgets, and we have, assumptions and rules that we have to follow. And so we assume, travel at the least cost, method, and so that's the way it works. Now, obviously, if a cab has a situation where, because of weather issues or something like that, that caused the cost to go up, that the process there is not to try to budget for that kind of stuff, because we simply don't know if it's going to ever occur, but to bring those forth in budget. In other words, if they need an enhanced budget, they can come back and with explanations of the reasons for the additional costs, we can then look at that on a case-by-case basis and deal with it at that time. And so that's to respond to the cabs, it's, that process is separate and apart from actual, doing the budget in the first place. So that's all the comment I had. Any other commissioners have any comment? Okay, then thank you, Patrick. Go ahead and take it out to the public then. Any public comment with regard to cab budgets? Any cabs have any issues? Jim, come on up.
Jim Janay, Lyon County. We submitted our budget and it was changed, and they told me what the mileage was to Fernley. There's a problem. I have been on this cab for many years and I am resigning in December. Yerington is actually the headquarters for Lyon County, so I used the increased amount so whoever took over didn't have to bother, but they can come back for a reimbursement. But that is the big reason for it, because there's quite a difference between Fernley and Yerington.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Any other public comment on the cab budgets? Okay, I'll bring it back to the commission. I guess I'm looking for a motion on our cab budget proposal here.
You ready?
Yep.
Move to approve fiscal year 2013 County Advisory Board budget requests.
Second.
And just to clarify, the amount is $50,539, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any additional comment, questions on the cab budget? Okay, seeing none, I'll go ahead and call for a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, let's move on to agenda item number 8, Wildlife Heritage Committee. Commissioner Wallace, Deputy Director Cates. 8A, Heritage Committee report. Commissioner Wallace, Committee Chair. Commission will hear a report from the Wildlife Heritage Committee Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Heritage Committee met on Wednesday evening. Most of us by teleconference. I had Commissioner Robb run the meeting from the Reno office to kind of facilitate the staff and the public that was there for the meeting. And we discussed policy number 11 and the Heritage Manual, which will be coming forward, I believe, next item. We'll be discussing that a little bit, so I won't get too deep into that. And then we also dealt with fiscal year 11 and 12 extension requests and reallocations. And also we briefly went over the fiscal year 2013 recommendations to be brought forth. I believe tomorrow it's on the agenda. And we made a few minor changes from what we did at the May meeting. But that was about it. So Commissioner Robb has anything to add?
No, I think the meeting went very well, and I look forward to the next agenda item, item B, and then tomorrow's agenda item.
Yeah. I don't know if there's any other questions, but as a general, just a question, you know, we kind of did things a little differently this time, and is the way that we've kind of scheduled this worked out the way we envisioned that it would? As part of getting input from the cabs and everybody getting a chance to you know, weigh in on these projects and, you know, all the issues?
Well, to be honest with you, we did the May meeting, and we didn't have a whole lot of participation in that from the cabs, be it timing, be it the quota stuff kind of overwhelmed them at the same time. And then as far as the June meeting came, we tried to wait until the last minute to hold it, yet we still only had one cab recommendation at that time. The rest of them still hadn't quite met. So, I mean, we did our best to include the cabs and to get some information, and we may have to have a little discussion on it tomorrow if there's some more cabs that have since come forth. I haven't had a chance, time period wise and work wise, to check out all the cab input on that, but I feel like it wasn't so rushed doing it in two different meetings like that, and there were some issues that came to light that we were allowed to reallocate some stuff and take care of some business that may have been tough doing it in one meeting. So in all, I think it worked out better, and I'm happy with how it went, and I hope the cabs felt they had ample opportunity to weigh in on it as well.
I can just and I'll get to you in a second, but just what I saw at Clark County Cab and the issues that were raised, and I know that we scrambled to make sure that we got to the Heritage Committee, you know, those comments and everything, but we were able to do it, and that was the point, is that I can tell you from what I saw at the Clark County Cab level and the issues that were raised about some of the projects and some of the issues that they had, that we were able to facilitate, you know, getting those communications to your committee, and as I understand, some adjustments were made. So anyway, Commissioner Rob.
I really like the way the process went this year. I think there was some misunderstanding. We did short fund some projects, and it caused some heartburn with some people right out of the gate, but the people that had the heartburn with it didn't recognize that we knew there was a possibility, a significant amount of dollars coming back that could be reallocated. And so the committee that met the first time recognized that. The people that didn't see it saw their projects not getting funded, and it caused some heartburn, but we worked through those issues yesterday. I think the ones that had the biggest complaints were satisfied with the way that the process worked in the end, and now they understand how it went better. Hopefully we don't have that type of money coming back again. Hopefully the committee does a good job of allocating those dollars out, and the people we allocate the dollars out to get their projects done in that project year, and we don't have the shuffle of different years and stuff. I think the process will get smoother over time.
Okay. Commissioner Wall?
And just to add, you know, I don't think there was a bad project this year, and that's what makes it so hard sometimes, is trying to make every one of them have a little bit, or to make it work, or to get the best bang for our buck from the Heritage Fund. And I feel that we've done the best that we could with that. And I mean, you can always do something different. You can jiggle the numbers around 5 million different ways, but I think we've done the best we can do with it, and I'm pleased with the results.
Okay.
I would have to say it's one of the more satisfying committees to be on, just because you can see projects going forward and see the success we're having. So I really enjoy this committee.
Okay. Any other commission comment on the, you know, with regard to, okay. Then that one, that was informational, so thank you very much, Commissioner Wallace. I'll go ahead and move on to 8B. Commission Policy number 11, Heritage Grant Manual, Deputy Director Patrick Cates for possible action. The Commission will hear the first reading of a new proposed Commission Policy number 11, Heritage Grant Manual, as recommended by the Wildlife Heritage Committee. Commissioner Cates, Deputy Director Cates, go ahead.
Okay, you should have in your packet Commission Policy number 11 draft. Just a little background and context on this. We do have also on the agenda a regulatory change regarding the Wildlife Heritage Program. And that issue has been before this commission before. One of the things we're seeking to do in that regulation was to move the process for people who are awarded project funds from a state contracting process to a grant-making process. And the reasons for that I've been through before, but basically it streamlines the process administratively. We don't have to apply things that are in the state's model contract form that aren't really applicable to this type of a project. We don't have to go through Board of Examiners approval. We have been moving a lot of our programs to a grant-making process. We have model grant manuals that are very thorough, and we've developed a grant manual for the Heritage Program. So what this policy does, once the regulation is approved, is it lines out for the commission and the public and anybody who wants to come forward with projects that the process that is used is a grant-making process, and it uses the department's Wildlife Heritage Program Manual, and that material is also in the packet. That way it's very clear, and it backs up in a much greater detail what the proposed regulation will say. And the committee also voted to approve this as is. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, do we have any commissioners have any questions on commission policy number 11? It's one page, you know, broad policy statement. Basically, looks like that referring the details to the Wildlife Heritage Program, you know, to the manual. That's where all the details are.
Yes.
And so the manual can be changed as needed. There's no restriction on us with regard to changing the manual.
That's the intent, yes, because the manual has to comply with, there's some state regulations about granting processes. You know, these things undergo DAG review. You know, there may be technical reasons why things need to be changed, or, you know, more robust requirements we want to put in there. So we didn't want to make the entire manual part of the policy, so that it had to be.
Does a manual come to the commission for approval, or is that an internal NDOW document?
It's intended to be an internal NDOW document.
Okay.
It's out there publicly, and you know, you have the policy that says we follow it. So if that were ever a bone of contention, you could always revoke the policy.
Okay. Commissioner Finch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With that in mind, I have a couple of suggestions. I had a couple of minor edits. I was looking through the Heritage Trust. I can give you those off to the side. The now this maybe I've been living under a rock or something, but the PIW tag used to be $10, right? PIW putting in, and it references 20. Is that 20 now?
I'm not sure where you're at.
This is on page 3 of the grant of the Heritage Grant Program of the document, the manual. Page 3's third full paragraph.
Uh-huh.
Those who are unsuccessful in obtaining a deer tag in the regular drawing can apply to be involved in the special PIW deer tag drawing for the amount of their refund, $20. I thought that was 10, but
10.
Okay. I'll have to check that. If it's 10, we'll change it.
This is the old language, way back old, when it was the full amount. And the half, that's old, same paragraph.
Okay.
It's old.
So I guess where I'm headed is there might be, with that in mind, there might be a little bit of work to do there. And like I said, I have a couple of other minor edits. That was one that was a little more substantive for me.
That section is intended to give some background on how the account's funded. So I don't think it would materially impact a grantee, but of course we do want the most current information, so we'll have to go back and review that.
Okay. On page 8, section 4, project manager. There's a reference right away to project director, and I'm assuming that it was intended to say manager, but I guess I'll ask the question, is there more than one person that is referencing?
No, we had a director in an early draft, and I asked staff to change all of those to manager because I thought it created confusion.
So I think there's just two. I only saw the two right there in that one paragraph.
Okay.
So they must have got the others. And then probably for me on page 11, the second full paragraph, there was a reference to if at any other time of the year the commission determines that money is available to fund additional projects, the commission may do one or more of the following request, accept, and approve applications. That should probably read and or just read or.
It should say or. The NAC says or.
Okay.
That's what that's supposed to reflect.
All right. Those are, then I had, like I said, I just had a couple of minor edit type things that I'll share with you off the side or something.
Thank you for that input.
Any other commissioners with any comments on policy 11?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Commissioner Rain, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The one issue I see with this is referring everything to the Heritage Program Manual that the Commission doesn't basically approve. This would be great, I would think, if it also said in the next sentence something to the effect of, and the Commission will review, will approve any changes to the Heritage Grant Program Manual. Because that would bring any changes into the public forum, we would have CAB input on them, and they would have to be voted on by the Commission. That would be a reasonable addendum and allow more public input as to any changes that are in here. Not that there's anything bad in here, but as pointed out, there's several errors in it, and as public as the heritage stuff is, it does need to be before the Commission. What did the committee go over on that?
I guess, well, you can address it, but let me, my take on it is, and first of all, the Commission approves the heritage projects, and that's our statutory obligation, but we're switching to a grant process, and that process, the manual basically is dealing with the procedures associated with doing the grant process. Is that right?
That's correct.
And that isn't necessarily the purview of the Commission as to how, that's a state. The state has the authorities and the, in other words, that's something that the state of Nevada is, interested in, and that it has to be done in a certain fashion.
Yes.
And so the Commission really doesn't have much say in the grant process procedurally. Obviously, it has a lot to say about what projects get funded. That's our duty. So, if you could just comment on that.
Sure.
Along those lines.
I mean, we gladly take input into the manual, particularly if it has things that need to be addressed to help grantees, but it really is an administrative process, and we are charged with administering the Heritage Program on behalf of the board, and to have the manual itself come before the Commission every time it changed, it would, in my mind, be akin to having the model contract forms that were previously used, have those forms reviewed and approved by the Commission for any changes. We often change those contracts as we're drafting them at their administrative procedures, and I think would go beyond the broad policy guidance that the Commission would appropriately provide. But, I mean, we certainly do take input. That we have a set of standards in the state administrative manual about granting processes and what they must look like. This manual is obviously customized for heritage, but we need to be able to administer it like we're administering all of our other sub-grant processes. And it was for that reason that I specifically didn't want to make the entire manual part of Commission policy, because it needs to adhere to those broader state standards.
Yeah. And I know that a lot of us have heard the what the whole process was, but we're really getting away from that contracting issue and how those contracts have to go through the, what is it, the interim finance committee, or is it?
That's the Board of Examiners.
Board of Examiners.
It's the Governor, Secretary of State, and the Attorney General.
Yeah, and so we're really cutting that out, and that was a major process to have to go through, and so this is internalizing the process in the department, you know, through this grant process.
And it really is a grant process. We've used contracts, but it looks like a grant process, walks like a grant process. You know, we ask people to apply, we do a public review, rank them, and award them. That's a grant process. That's not contracting for services. So.
Okay. Any additional comments? You know, and just, you know, the agenda item is to approve the policy. That's what the agenda item is, and it's great that you gave us the manual and to let us look at it, and it looks like you had some comments, and I'm sure that if anybody else sees anything else that, you know, that the department's going to be perfectly willing to, you know, to make sure that that grant manual's, you know, correct. But what we're talking about here is the policy, and so if there's issues that we need to deal with on the policy, but in my mind, this is exactly what policy should look like, broad, you know, overall direction to the department as to how things should be done. And so what we're doing is we're saying, you know, the old way through the contracting process and everything that it involved was cumbersome. We're changing that system to the grant process, and it's much more streamlined. It's internal. We don't have to deal with the state, you know, contracting process, and therefore, you know, that's the way we want to do this on a go-forward basis. That's the way I'm looking at it. And so, I look at the policy. It looks good to me. I know that the Heritage Committee's looked at it. I don't know where it started, but I understand it. I love one-page policies. So that's the way I look at it. Commissioner Rain?
You know, the main problem with the Heritage Grant Program manual is there's some stuff in here that gives Commission's authority to the department. Must be consistent. Battle Park Wildlife Program intent must be within the scope of the department's biological overall plan, as well as suitable in the habitat which project will be conducted. Well, if the Commission came up with something and it happened to not be within that something that's going on at that time, hey, the Commission approved it. You're giving up a section of your authority by putting it in here. And why have that authority in two places and they both have to exactly coincide? I mean, things like that are what the Heritage Committee does. The Heritage Committee goes through and decides, is it consistent with what the Commission thinks is the biological overall plan. Then you got somebody second guessing that. This Section 3 stuff here. You know, in the review process, there's just too much in the manual. If the manual is a nice, simple, hey, you guys have got to do this to get your grant, that's wonderful. You know, these are the state laws and you must comply. Well, of course, okay, great. We're all there. When it comes into these first level review, theoretical, you know, how much is that? Where it has some potential for future conflict.
If I could address that.
Please.
This section does deal with the department's review process. That in no way usurps the Commission's authority. The department has authority under NAC to review and evaluate the projects before they even get to the Commission, and that's what that process is describing. And it's important for somebody who's going to apply that they can look at this manual and know what process it's going to go through from start to finish. So that's really addressing an authority that's already in NAC for the department.
So these are not limiting factors. These are simply in the suggestions from the department.
It's our review process for evaluating them, yeah. That's how we evaluate them, and we rank them and tell you whether we think they're good.
So the way this Section 3 is intended to function, and there's a lot, there was quite a bit here, is to function before it's looked at by the Commission or after it's looked at by the Commission?
Before.
This is all prior to Commission?
Yes. We review them. It even says in NEC that we're to help project proponents complete their applications.
So this is not post. That's just one of those things that.
No, this is before it gets to you. We have in NAC a deadline, I think it's April 15th, to send the projects to you. This is all what we do before that, making sure they're complete, making sure they address our biological concerns, and then we can tell you with a straight face, yeah, we think this is a good project or maybe has concerns.
So probably somewhere within the manual it probably says this is what happens first. So I was losing that train of how the projects get to the commission, what happens before, what happens after. Well, my flow chart, perhaps, I was lacking in this. So that is, if we had a flow chart to it, this is at the top, not at the bottom.
Well, it kind of flows from start to finish. It gives you background, it tells you how to apply, then it tells you what our thresholds are, and then it tells you what.
Because this is at the end, you know? Okay.
Commissioner Moore was first. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question that I have is, with the passage of this policy, and if I were an applicant for a heritage project, what would the differences be, or what would the changes be from the way we've done it in the past to having to follow the grant procedures?
Really, the biggest change is speed. We wouldn't have to submit a state contract to the Board of Examiners. They meet monthly, but you have to submit things basically 2 months in advance of a meeting. So what has often happened in the past is the commission awards projects, say, at a June meeting, and if we can't get all the contract forms back to people in time for Board of Examiners deadlines, it may be September, October, or even later before that contract gets finalized and approved. That's really the big fundamental difference. Other than that, I mean, we hold them to auditing and a lot of the same criteria that you would find in the model contract form, but it just takes that extra bureaucratic step out of it.
So you're saying basically no additional restrictions upon the applicants or the commission's ability to make the decisions on heritage projects?
Nothing would restrict the commission from awarding projects by going to this process. The criteria is a little bit different. The reporting criteria is a little bit different than they might have in a contract, but not substantially.
Thank you.
Commissioner McMinch?
I'm okay.
Okay. I just want to point out that neither a grant manual or a regulation can usurp the statutory authority of this commission with regard to, you know, heritage, what our process is. And so I'm perfectly comfortable. I mean, this policy can't, you know, take away from our ability. And Dag knew if you want to weigh in on that, you know, our authority on heritage projects is statutory, and this, you know, and I don't think that a regulation or a manual can, you know, limit it or restrict it.
No, that's true. The policy or the manual have to both be in compliance with the regulation and the statute. And under the statute, the department does the screening, so it ranks them and makes recommendations, but any approval of the applications and the funding would have to be the commission.
Yeah. Okay. Any further questions for Deputy Director Cates with regard to Policy 11? Okay, then I'd like to take this one out to the public. Any members of the public have any comments with regard to policy number 11? Come on up.
For the record, Paul Dixon, Clark. I'll speak as an individual here rather than as representing my cab. I filed a lawsuit against this heritage process 3 years ago because it was out of control and a mess. I think the outcome of having a grant manual that formalizes the process and brings to you things where everybody's on the same playing field and you have all the information of what's really going to happen, it's probably the best thing that could ever happen to this commission, because it really gives you the power to make the informed decisions rather than not. And the way that it was set up before, it was a system that, it worked if you agreed with something and it didn't work if you didn't agree with it, you know, from a public perspective. And this way, everybody's on the same playing field, and I want to applaud NDOW for pulling together this grant manual, and especially Patrick, because it's the right thing to have, and it really does put everything on the same level, and I think it's a great idea. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Come on up, Rex.
Rex Flowers, Washoe County. Yeah, we went with policy. It's a great tool. One thing to remember is if there's any changes going to be made, they're going to be made within policy. But in the writing of the policy, you have two spell checks under procedure. You have in the second, I guess the first sentence, second line, and ensure it's, well, that's correct, but after that, ensure its compliance with, not will. And that would be the only thing I had caught earlier within ours. Our copy says ensure its compliance will. So if they change that to with, thank you.
Any additional public comment on policy 11? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission. Let me look at my agenda item.
First reading. Move on.
Okay, so we have, this was the first reading, and we will be coming back tomorrow, right?
Yep.
17A. Okay, so we'll be coming back tomorrow, and so we have one proposed change. I do agree with that one, Rex. That does look like, so if there's anything else, I don't see any other comments. Any comments in from the commission? Okay.